So if I always tell people, if there's, Aston, McLaren, Ferrari, those are the ultra luxury cars. They all come from effectively two places. If there was a American counterpart to that is what Karma is.
Right.
Okay. And so it's a different value proposition. So someone says, well, how does it compare to a Tesla? It doesn't. It's not even the same thing. I mean, like we spend more money, and there's no offense to that car, but we spend more money on our leather than they do on like the whole rear chassis, right? So, so it's a different value.
Welcome to The Inevitable, a podcast by MotorTrend.
Hi there, welcome to The Inevitable. This is MotorTrend's podcast, our vodcast about the future of the car, the future of the automobile, the future of mobility, the future of luxury. Where are we going? How are we going to get there? And what type of leather are we going to be sitting on? I'm Jonny Lieberman. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Ed Lowe.
Hello.
Who has a special message just for you.
The Inevitable Vodcast is brought to you by nobody currently. So if you want to sponsor us, shoot me a note, edward.loh@hearst.com. Looking for a sponsor. 1 episode, 3 episodes, all of them. Let us know. Today, we have the president of Karma Vehicles, Marques McCammon. Great guy. Fun conversation. Goes all the way back to the origins of this. You will not believe where I'm going with this.
The first domestic car ever on the cover of Sport Compact Car magazine.
That's not the first car.
No, first domestic. It is.
Really?
It is. Yeah.
So it goes back to the origins of SRT, which is currently Stellantis's or Dodge's, whatever, high performance division. Who knows? But we talk about that. We talk about his incredible career through everything from the American Sunroof Corporation, ASC, to Saleen, to Aptera, to Wind River, to Ricardo, among many other stops.
And now he's running a new luxury Southern California designed and built car company.
Known as Karma, not to be confused with the name we won't say, but you'll hear a little bit about on the podcast. So without further ado, let's get Marques McCammon, president of Karma, onto the show. Marques McCammon, president of Karma.
Yep.
Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Long time coming.
We've
been trying to do this for a while.
We talked about this last year at the LA Auto Show.
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. And at Quail for 2 years in a row, I think.
Yeah.
So,
all right, I'm just going to jump right in and just go way back to your past because it's fascinating to me. You were somehow involved with the Dodge Neon SRT-4.
I actually created it.
Oh,
all right. Let's hear it.
Hero to the people.
I don't know about hero, but so I was working in Chrysler in a group called Advanced Product Creation. It had just been created. It was under Tom Gale. And I love that guy, by the way.
I'm
Tom Gale, man, myth, the legend.
Yes.
I was just talking to Tom
former head of design
3 days ago. Yeah.
Former head of design, chief operating officer of Chrysler at the time. And so his big thing was we were relaunching the Neon, and this whole sport compact crowd was going, and he says, why is no one in that crowd interested in Neon? And I just happened to be a young engineer who drove Honda to work every day. And so my boss, Larry Akram, says, why don't you ask Marques? So they said, here's the assignment. You get a team. They gave me a powertrain engineer, a technician out of the garage, and a designer out of the studio, a guy by the name of Eric Stoddard, who actually went on to have a great design career. And you guys give me a car that you would buy. And so we ran around for the better part of 9.5 months. And we came up with a prototype we called the Neon SRT. So it was a supercharged RT Neon. And then we took it to, Tom sponsored us to go to SEMA in, I want to say it was 99. And we took it to the SEMA show in 1999. The response was absolutely fantastic. So then he said, all right, take it to Los Angeles. We're going to go to the LA Auto Show. We'll see if we get the same response. And then we took it out to Pomona Raceway. We brought in a bunch of journalists. And next thing you know, SRT-4 was, the Neon SRT had a life. So when we're at the show, Tom says to me, Marques, it's a pity that we actually don't have a supercharged engine in the roadmap. It would be great if we could actually build this car. So I called back to the headquarters from the floor of the auto show, And my friend who's working in powertrain, a guy named Mark Musial, unfortunately he passed away last year. Mark said, well, we have a 2.4 liter turbocharged engine that we built for the Stratus in Mexico. So I said, find another body, get an engine, and shove it in. And then we started building a second car. And so I would go to work during the day. I was doing different jobs in program management, powertrain engineering, and then at night, after everyone left, we would go back, and with the second shift through the at this Chrysler Tech Center, we built up a second prototype, and a third, and a fourth.
So wait a second. Let me back up. So what Honda were you driving at the time?
I was driving a Honda. I think at the time we started the program, I was driving a 5-speed Accord.
Okay.
By the time we finished the program, I was in a Prelude SI.
Nice. Okay.
Oh, cool.
All right.
Yeah.
So these vehicles might have informed this vehicle, this SRT-4. So wait.
But hang on, the Neon handled way better than those.
Yeah.
That was the story I was telling. I always tell it was 2 decades ago when I was a younger man starting off my career.
Yep.
I weaseled my way into a Skip Barber class.
Yep.
And they put us, we started out in I think M3s, and then they stuck us in 996s. And I was like, hot damn, I'm going to be hell on a racetrack. Well, the instructors get in front of us. They're in SRT-4s.
Yep.
They got one hand on the wheel. They're holding a walkie and yelling at us in the other hand. We couldn't get near them.
Yep.
And I was like, I knew how good the SRT-4 was, but also I was like very humbled, like, oh, I have a lot to learn about driving. But yeah, that's what they used.
So the
cool.
interesting story, that program got canceled. It took us 3 years to get it to production. Okay. And we went through a whole change in management, merger of equals,
Right.
Ultimately the people who approved it was Wolfgang Bernhardt and Dr. Dieter Zetsche.
Yes.
But in order for me to get the program sold, there was one guy who kept saying no. And it was a guy named Pete Gladys. Pete Gladys was the head of vehicle dynamics for small car, but he was also a rally driver, right? He was a big time racer. And so when Pete finally said yes, he really dove into the chassis on the car. And then the next thing was the Viper team was having a bunch of financial troubles. So John Fernandez at the time was running Team Viper. And so John said, Marcus, I want to take SRT-4 into Viper. We're going to rebrand as SRT. He said, because I needed an executive sponsor to get the program over the hump. So John said he'll step in as the executive sponsor. We moved it into, and then they rebranded everything into SRT. So the SRT-4 was the first SRT, even though first production was the Viper.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
So
then
that's crazy. So the SRT name, which they claim now, it stands for Street Racing
Technology.
Actually was
Supercharged
Supercharged
RT.
It was
RT.
Supercharged RT, then it was Street and Race Technology. Oh, and we said Street Race Technology. Dr. Zetsche said we can't say street racing in the name of a car, and that's how it evolved. I literally have the first presentation that we did on slides.
Oh,
Right? You
yeah,
remember
yeah.
Transparency?
Yeah, sure.
I still have it in the garage at my house.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so did you
That's
work
amazing.
with he passed away too, but he was one of the original OG Dan. Is it who was the original guy over a lot of those
Over the SRT programs?
Yeah.
Oh,
Dan starts with an S.
Yes.
Oh, I can see the face.
oh, yeah. Oh, goodness gracious.
That's okay. He'll
But
come back
yes, I did.
Okay. So
what a
great
cool
story.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I nailed it, the opening story.
Yeah.
So tell me, wasn't your? Let me try to look back at your notes I have on you. That was not your first job, right? Coming at you went to you're a mechanical engineer
Yep.
from North Carolina,
A&T.
A&T,
Mm-hmm.
and then you got your master's at University of Michigan in mechanical engineering.
Yep, I went to Michigan Dearborn to get for my grad school work.
And,
Yeah.
and then did you work in between?
Yes. So when I hired into Chrysler, one of the reasons why I went to Chrysler was because they paid for me to go to school. So I would go to school at night
Smart,
while
man.
I was working during the day.
Smart.
So my first job at Chrysler was I was actually working at the assembly plant in Jefferson North Assembly Plant on the launch of the WJ Grand Cherokee.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so that was my baptism by fire.
My dad had one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was great. I mean, it was great education, right? Because we were doing there was a new car running off the lot like every 33 and a half minutes. And the median wholesale price was like $34,000. So if you stopped that line, like all of heaven descended upon your head.
And for you kids out there, 34,000 used to be a lot of money.
That used to be a lot of money. That used to be a lot of
For a
money.
That's
Was that line was it using Toyota TPS at that time? Do you pull an andon
We didn't have
cable
a
or something
we
to
didn't
stop the line?
we
or
didn't
no?
have an andon cord. You could stop the line though, right?
Okay.
So in launch, if the operator couldn't get the line the part in time, he could hit a red button and then he would stop the line. And if the line got stopped, first of all the plant shows up. And then the next day we would have an audit review meeting every morning at 5:30 in the morning, and the plant operations manager would stand up and he would just rip you one. If you didn't have a plan to get your stuff clean, you were dead. So that happened to me one time, and I remember there were 14 items in the top 10, and my department had 6 of them. And he was like, "Who put this snot-nosed kid in the da 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 da?" He was about this tall, but he put the fear of God in me. So, but I learned, quick response, very entrepreneurial thinking. How to navigate the plant. It was a great learning experience.
So you worked at Chrysler, then Daimler Chrysler.
Mm-hmm.
You got your MBA, and then it looks like you bounced.
No MBA.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no MBA.
Masters in Mechanical Engineering.
Yeah. So after the SRT program, so it's a real interesting story. I almost got fired, or at least I thought I was getting fired. So I couldn't get a promotion, and it was like, because you're violating the rules of our graduate program, you're not doing the rotations in order, and you keep coming back to the tech center, and you're supposed to be down at this place. And I said, well, I'm working on the SRT-4 program. And they were like, that doesn't matter, you're supposed to follow the rules. And then the month later, I get this note from corporate PR, and they said, Dr. Zetcha has named you our first everyday hero. And I was like, wow. So they do this whole piece, prints up in the Daimler Chrysler Times, but I was so scared that I was going to lose my job. Another guy left Chrysler, called me and offered me a job as his number 2 guy. And so he went to work for ASC, his old Heinz Prechter's old company. And he said, come run strategy and R&D, you can work for me. So I said, yes. And then the day that article got posted, they gave me a copy of it. And I said, guys, I'm sorry. I just tendered my resignation. Whoa. So they had to do a reprint of the whole thing. No. And then Dr. Zetcha, I love the guy. He's one of my favorite executives in the auto industry.
He was a really nice man.
Yep.
Yeah, he really was.
He had the COO at the time, a guy named Eric Breidenauer, call and say, if you ever try and pilfer people from my company again, we will shut you down. It was a real fun story.
Was ASC, did it rename at that point? Because it used to be American Sunroof.
It was American Sunroof. We renamed it to American Specialty Cars.
Yep.
Right.
We were building the Chevy SSR for GM and the Toyota Solara convertible for Toyota. And then my job was I ran the R&D group. So I had, we called it Advanced Product Creation. So I had all of strategy and had R&D. So the Jeep Skyslider roof, that came out of my team. And the coupe roof, the carbon fiber coupe roof that ultimately gave us a Viper coupe, we did that too.
Right.
So we did a lot of the little specialty things across the industry that helped, kind of scale pressure programs.
If you don't know ASC, some of the wildest cars came out of there because they were cars that the OEMs didn't have time.
Yes.
Or the budget.
I feel like
or the
a lot of
resources to make.
SUV convertibles back in the
Yes.
day.
Just the
stuff like
Solara
that.
convertible, just the SSR. Like what a goofball.
Yes.
Well, but it was
truck.
someone wanted, but that was like a thing that was swept through Detroit. SSR, and then
when
the
everybody
PT
went retro.
Cruiser.
Yep, that's right.
And it's just this weird thing.
Yeah,
that was Tom Gale too, the PT Cruiser.
Yep. We did a lot of the stuff that, that the passion in the industry in Detroit wanted, but couldn't make it pencil or couldn't make it work. And ASC was great. I mean, they have stories that go way, way back to Iacocca, right? When Iacocca was making the K cars and he put the Corinthian leather and the roof
Landau,
caps on the Landau roof, those were all made at ASC. Yep.
All right, one last neon thing before we move on. Was it true that there was a SRT-4 PT Cruiser that was like almost got greenlit?
There was an attempt to make an SRT-4 PT Cruiser. I'll tell you, inside the core group, the nucleus of us that were driving the program, we did not like it at all.
Okay.
But yeah, there was a push because when we first sold the SRT-4 program, we were only supposed to build like 3,000. We ended up going to 10,000 per year, and it had a huge lift on the Neon platform.
Yeah, totally.
And so after that, everyone was like, do it again, right? And so, but yeah, the PT we just didn't.
Because the engine made it in.
Yes.
The engine made it in, but
Yes.
I never had that. But I always, again, back when I used to, I was very involved with the 24 Hours of Lemons, which meant we'd rent cars a lot. So we became rental car experts, and we would look for PT Cruisers because they handled better.
Yes.
And we'd get to the tracks on Thursdays, and so we would just do our own private rental car racing.
Yeah, you had the same chassis team working on that car.
Okay.
But from the standpoint of the enthusiast group, I mean, because ultimately when the rebranding the Viper team and SRT really turned into a business model, then they built a proper team around it. I mean, and those, the guys everyone was car passionate, right? So there was a resistance to anything that didn't fit the mold.
Got it.
It was Dan Knott.
Dan Knott, yes.
SRT.
Dan took over after John Fernandez.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Dan was a great guy.
Okay.
Cool.
So let's go back, because I pulled your resume last night off of LinkedIn. You also worked at Saleen. Was
Yes.
that after ASE or before?
Yes,
That was
after.
after.
So when I was in ASE, I got an assignment out here in California. So I was running an office in Huntington Beach, and Saleen at the time had been bought by a private equity company,
Right.
and they had held it for a long time, and they were not happy with kind of where things were going.
Was Steve still involved? Was this the time when Steve was not involved?
Steve was literally exited the week that I joined.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
All right, good
And
context.
so
I remember that,
so I came into the company, and my whole thing was I wanted to see what it was like to run a car company, and the owners said, well, we're not sure if you've got the chops for it. So I negotiated with them to take it out of my paycheck, and if I don't get it done, then you fire me. If I do get it done, you keep me. And so the assignment was, we want to get the business turned and ready to sell in 12 months.
Oh, wow.
And so I came in as the general manager.
No pressure.
I came in as the general manager of the vehicle business. So what we did was they ended up buying ASC, but that was after. So they hired me. Then they went back and they bought ASC, and then combined the two companies. And I ran the specialty vehicle business. And then the S7 business was sundowned. And then we had an aftermarket and parts business, because we were painting panels for Viper and Ford GT. And so, but the cars, all the Saleen Mustangs and F-150s and all that was me.
Wait. So you said S7 was.
We were sundown. It was
sunsetting it right at that point.
It was end of S7. It was the last production year of S7.
This is like early 2000s?
This was 2000. This was 2006, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if I remember right.
So you never worked directly with Steve Saleen?
No.
Okay.
So
Because he had SMS going.
yes. Yeah.
And then, I mean, we had such a troubled history with Saleen. Like we could never get their car. Steve would never give us a car unless it was. I think we had to be testing it at El Toro.
Yeah.
Only wanted it on the rough ass pavement there because it had the maximum traction.
Yeah.
Like, we don't test down there.
Yep.
He was just a giant. Just a lot of trouble. Do you have any great, terrible stories
With Steve?
of the vehicles or of your time there or anything fun?
I got lots of stories. So, when we first joined, the team was great. It was one of the most entrepreneurial, passionate teams I've ever worked with. But when we first got there was a lot of quality issues.
Right.
And so I don't want to besmirch anyone's name or reputation, but when we got there, the first thing was focusing on the quality issues. Like, we were having vehicles that we were shipping where there was a model that we did named for a famous racer that we put a Watts Link suspension in the rear, but the Watts Link suspension wasn't properly anchored, so it was actually ripping out of the sheet metal. So we had to go back and redesign some things, and so I remember I had a laundry list of issues. I'm gonna call them issues.
Oh, you were taking Mustangs and making them. You were turning solid axle Mustangs into independent rear. That's right. Okay. Yes.
So
before Ford did it.
Yeah. So we had. I'm gonna say I had a list of issues that was about 16 to 18 items long. And so my number one thing was I had to resolve those issues.
Right.
When I joined, they told me I had 300 dealers. Well, there were actually only 80 or so that would actually talk to us.
Right.
So I had to go on to a road show and kind of re-engage the dealers. We had inventory in the field that had been sitting for forever. And so we had to work through that and then kind of reposition and create a whole new portfolio. So yeah, I got lots of stories, but I try to always keep the stories as positive as possible.
Sure.
And then so from there, Aptera?
From there, Aptera. Yeah.
Okay.
So
And we had
Steve Fambro.
yeah, no, we had
No.
the designer, the art center guy.
Jason.
Yes, we had Jason Hill
Yep.
from Aptera on.
One of our early episodes.
Great guy.
Yeah,
Yep.
really nice guy.
Car's cool. Still kind of not off the ground, but you were there as a marketing guy
Yeah.
for how long?
Yeah. So I joined in 2008, and I was there until 2011.
Okay.
When we closed
That's
it down the
where
first time.
I think
that's where we met.
you
That's where we first met.
An airport.
That's
You were showing-
exactly
yeah,
right.
I was
That's
working for
exactly right.
Autoblog in
That's
like
exactly
2008,
right.
9.
That's right.
Okay,
In the
I
Carlsbad
can-
Airport.
Okay, yeah,
Yep.
yes. I remember we drove a long time.
That's right.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
right.
so I joined. It was interesting. I got offered a job at another very famous electric vehicle company, whose CEO just got a very nice pay
Gotcha.
package.
Yeah.
I didn't really care for him. Philosophically, we weren't very well aligned. So Aptera came along, and it was an opportunity to be an earlier stage. And the initial board and the funding of Aptera at that time was actually very impressive. So they had Google Ventures, they had some guys from early Yahoo days, the chairman of Pandora, the chairman of Rockwell International. I mean, it was a really great board.
Also, like some Ford people. There was like some Detroit
So
know-how was there.
So the engineering manager for the Ford GT was there.
Right.
And so it was a great team. So I came in. I was chief marketing and product officer. And I was there. I was the guy who turned the lights out when we ended up selling the assets in 2011. So it was a hard run. The big thing for us was at that time after Tesla and Fisker got loans from the federal government. No one in none of the venture capital companies would touch you unless you had a federal loan.
Right.
So we got a federal loan. We got a federal loan guarantee for like $150 million. But then right after we got the loan guarantee, the first company to get one, Solyndra, went bankrupt.
Right. That was a big
And
deal.
then once that happened, everything became political, and no VC wanted to touch it. DOE didn't want to touch it. So we said, guys, either we're going to have to go out and all the insiders are going to have to put in a lot more money, or we just need to shut it down. So we opted to shut it down and try and give everyone a soft landing. And that, as they say, was that.
What kind of a decision is that to make? Like, I'm shutting a company down.
It's
like,
hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, so the good news is the way that we did it, it wasn't a bankruptcy. So we were able to cure our debts with all of our suppliers and our employees. So we were thoughtful enough to do it early. But, you're always looking for, there's got to be one angle, right? If this one thing happens, we can make it fly. And so, we did a lot of brainstorming. I even had worked to deal with one of the motorcycle manufacturers to see if we could buy their engines, put them in the car, and sell the car as an ICE car so we could get to market faster. I mean, so you go through every permutation of how do you make this thing work?
Right.
And then ultimately you say, what's best for everybody?
Right.
It was really hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
We're just gonna rip through the rest of
no worries.
your resume here, and from Aptera to Wind River.
To Wind River, yeah. So
Okay.
I got
What the hell is Wind River?
So Wind River Systems was a commercial software arm that was owned by Intel. Intel bought them in 2009. They are, interesting enough, avionics on every commercial aircraft in the world runs Wind River software. Okay. And so it was an interesting thing because Intel bought them. Intel usually gives software away to sell chips.
Right.
Wind River was the only thing inside of their business that actually sold software. And so, but only critical. If it's a system that can't fail,
Safety critical.
safety critical. If a system that can't fail, Wind River was there.
ASIL D or whatever
Yep,
in automotive.
absolutely. All right, and so I came in as the first product chief for automotive, and then ultimately I became the vice president for all of automotive globally. But we did all infotainment for Honda for years. We were doing the ADAS system from Audi when they launched their first ADAS system. We had Wind River software was there. We were in Hyundai Mobis and telematics, Hyundai Kia rather in telematics. We were in BMW. We literally touched every major automaker.
Okay. I was just kidding. I did kind of know what Wind River is. Are they a competitor with QNX?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So QNX is our sponsor of our Software Defined Vehicle Awards. So I've been learning about ASIL D. I've been learning about these ISO safety standards. There's another competitor in is it Green Hills?
Green Hills software. Yeah, they're much smaller.
Okay. And these are all
Wind River, Green Hills.
These are all stuff that nobody who listens to this podcast or reads MotorTrend cares about, but it's in every car.
If it wasn't there, you would care a lot.
Yeah.
And so Wind River now is owned by Aptiv. So Aptiv bought Wind River in 2020.
Okay.
And for big money, right? I think it was like $3.6 billion.
That's big money.
So yeah,
Ooh.
so now they're a part of, the number 15 tier 1 on the planet.
What made you qualified with your fancy mechanical engineering degrees to work at a software company?
So what they wanted was someone who knew the automotive business.
Okay.
And their thing was, at the time, so if you remember in 2014, right, you had the Silicon Valley guys saying everyone in Detroit was stupid, or everyone in Detroit was saying everyone in Silicon Valley was stupid.
Yes.
And what they wanted was someone who could translate between the two.
Mm.
And so my thing was, I was the decoder ring. So I would try to help the software guys understand how to talk in production OEM speak. And to be honest, Wind River, we had hired Wind River when I was at Aptera to help us with our software architecture.
Okay.
So that's how I got my education.
But also 2014, like we were talking about before we started recording, like that's when autonomy really
was the big buzz,
big thing that Wall Street wanted.
Yep.
And not that it was there, but Wall Street really wanted cars that could drive themselves. It seems like that was how you'd grow the automotive sector.
That was it. The word was the future of automotive is not gasoline, it's data. Data is the new oil, it's the new gasoline. So you got to be in data. That's why Intel ended up buying Mobileye. It was around in that same time.
So then you exit Wind River and you go to Ricardo.
Yes.
How does that?
So
Ricardo hardware, right?
Yeah, Ricardo's. They are literally the oldest engineering services firm in the auto industry.
Right. Seats,
gearboxes, in motors. So diesel engines, gas engines, gearboxes. That's what Ricardo's known for. Anything powertrain. And so I was. When River got sold to a private equity company, TPG Group, I was running the automotive business, and private equity. There's some guys at TPG. I love them. They're great. But private equity has a way of doing things.
Yeah.
Ricardo called me and they said, our auto business has been falling. We want to turn it around. We want to move it in a new direction. We think that you could be the guy. And so I interviewed for the president of the North American business. I was there. We got that business turned. And then they gave me the global auto. It was the first time they ever put all of the regions of Ricardo's automotive business together at one time. So I had the Americas, I had Asia Pac, and I had Europe. It was before that they were always separate businesses. But Ricardo's auto business had lost like $10.6 million when the year that I joined, and then we got it to about $10 million of profit. And so that was my thing, was getting the business turned around. This was, let's see, I started there in August of 2018, and all that went through COVID. So I left there in March of 2023.
Ricardo famously, I think,
makes the engines for the McLaren Aptera.
That's right. But there's also
they make a gearbox.
There's a gearbox that was.
They make the gearbox for the Porsche GT3. They make the gearbox for the first and second generations of Formula E. I mean, like they did the high feature V6 for GM when they introduced the Cadillac and the CTS and the CTS-V. I mean, they've been around. Yeah. They did the gearbox for the Ford GT.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the one.
That was the one where I was like, because that's some race car. That's some race car stuff.
Yeah, Ricardo's got big chops.
Okay.
Right.
Big chops.
And that led you to Karma.
So then you land at Karma.
Yeah.
So we're going to spend the rest of this time talking about Karma. But I just want to ask, before we dive deep into Karma, what on earth is the through line from all of these companies? From Chrysler to
Great question.
To Saleen to ASC to Aptera to Wind River to Ricardo. Like, again, Karma, mechanical engineer. Like, what's exciting for you about all these?
So I'll give you a little story. When I got recruited into Chrysler, this is the recruiters asked me this question: what's your 5-year plan? Right? You remember that? Yeah. And I said, I want to come to Chrysler. I want to design a car. I want to get my name in the press and build a reputation. And then I want to go start my own car company. And the guy laughed. He's like, oh man, that's great. I think, I love your ambition, but that's not how it works. Well, I got to Chrysler. I designed a car. I got my name in the press around the SRT-4. And then I ended up going off and helping with all these other specialty programs. So I was in search of learning. My big thing was I used to go, when I was at Chrysler, I went to every senior executive in the company and I asked the same question. I said, I'm young, inexperienced, and overly opinionated, but I want to know what gets you out of the bed in the morning. Why do you do this job? Like literally every senior executive. And so my thing was I wanted to learn how to be an auto CEO.
What did Tom Gale say?
Tom said, Marcus, I'm the same as you. I put my pants on one leg at a time. He said, I do this because I love cars.
I was about to say, we used to do this cool thing. It was called Back of the Napkin, where we get car designers to do a sketch, put on the last page of MotorTrend, and then get a little, they'd give a paragraph about it or whatever. And Tom drew a 32 Ford hot rod.
Yep.
And I'm like, "Could you give me the text?" He said, "I just like hot rods."
Yep. That's exactly right.
And it's like,
Yeah, he told me, he said, if I wasn't getting paid, this is what I would do every day.
Right.
He, Dr. Zetcha were two, and then later Alan Mullally, three of the most influential people.
I mean, those are pretty good guys.
My idol in my career was Carroll Shelby, because I never thought I could run a real auto company. So I figured it would be something like Saleen or Shelby-ish. And so, when I remember when I sat down with Carroll, he says, Marcus, I've done a lot of bad stuff in my life as well as I've done good stuff. He said, but I try to do the things that I love. So that's been it.
Real quick before we move on, and I'll tell you when we're off the air, but I was once asked about my 5-year plan, and I was also laughed at.
Yeah.
I was interviewing for a job, and
I didn't laugh that hard.
Wasn't you? You had nothing to do with it, and it wasn't MotorTrend. Right. But these two dudes laughed at me, and that just became fuel.
Yeah, so, that's all it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, how'd you get to Karma? You recruited?
I was recruited.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
so, interesting story. I actually pitched Kleiner Perkins to start my own car company, and I pitched them in the same week that they funded Heinrich Fisker. And so, so that was my introduction to kind of the whole startup auto business. So when the recruiter came and said, "Hey, we got a startup auto company," it was started by this guy in 2014 who had a vision of making a great car company that would have impact. What do you think about working for a startup car company? I said, that's what I've been trying to do for the past decade. And so it was just a natural place.
Okay. Did you know, had you worked with or crossed paths with Heinrich before?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. When he launched Fisker Coach Build, he invited me out to the first launch event.
And Fisker Coach Build was the Orange County they did like SLs and BMW 6 Series.
Yep, and they were rebodying them with Valmet.
Yep. Prior to Fisker.
Prior to the first
Fisker.
Yeah, that would have been like 2006, 7,
yep,
8.
That's right.
Yep.
So
I drove one.
This recruiter comes to you and says, pitch in a startup. They didn't tell you the name of the startup until you got a little deeper in.
Yeah, exactly.
Once you found out it was Karma, what were your thoughts?
When I found out it was Karma, I was like, I need to dig deeper. So I thought that there was a lot of potential, because I always thought that there was potential in the product, but there was a number of things that I thought were executed poorly.
Okay.
So I said, one, I want to know who owns them, and I want to understand why, right? What's their why and their level of commitment. And then after that, then I want to dig into the product. Like, what's the opportunity? What's the infrastructure? What do we have to build? Because there's more stories of new auto companies that fail than there are ones that succeed.
Totally.
And so, and I've worked with a lot of them. And so, so my big thing was, let me see what the bones of this thing are and what the values of the people who are driving it are. And if those two things line up, then yeah, I'll do it.
So who owns Karma?
Karma's owned by a single investor out of China. This group called the Wansheng Group. The founder of that group was one of the early automotive industrialists. So in the 80s and 90s, when the Detroit automakers were globalizing to reduce cost, he was a key partner. Like 1 in every 2 cars coming out of Detroit has parts from his company. Oh, wow. And so he was, as a matter of fact, the first, and I believe the only Chinese national ever to be inducted into the U.S. Automotive Hall of Fame. Huh. So he was a real pioneer. And because I felt, when I said China, I felt really uncomfortable. But then when I came to understand that they've been operating in the U.S. since the 80s. They have 23 different companies here, 13,000 employees, right? And his focus was to build a American car company, and because his philosophy was that at its core, there's a commonality between all countries, and if he could be an example of what the bridge between cultures could be, then it would make everyone's lives better. That, like, literally, this was his philosophy. I said, "Whoa, this is deep." So,
when you say 1 out of every 2 cars has parts from this guy's company, what are you talking about? Like a door?
Universal joints. Okay. So that's what the company was built on originally, was universal joints, but they do half shafts, they do axles, they do gears. So it's usually, it's hard mechanical parts, but high precision, high quality, high repeatability.
High margin.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
How did Karma settle on Orange County as a place to build cars?
Yeah.
And I'm asking this because the last couple of weeks, we interviewed Zinger and Singer.
Yeah.
And, another
You
podcast
interviewed
interviewed Zinger, but we've interviewed them previously. But they're all telling the same story in that, like, there's not a ton of automotive, like really high-end automotive talent in Southern California.
That's right.
There's really good people that can, like, take 6 months to paint a car.
Yes.
But they don't do stuff the OEM way.
That's right.
And so I just...
Yeah, so the interesting story was when he bought the assets, and he made a promise because he had to cure debts with the federal government. So he said, the prior narrative was that it was a U.S. company, but it wasn't. All the parts, everything was being built in Europe. I'll buy everything and I will relocate it in the United States.
Right, because it was manufactured in Norway, Finland. Sorry.
And so the thesis was, if we're going to build a luxury car company in the U.S. and it's going to be reflective of U.S. culture and technology, what's the best place? Well, it's California, right? And then our headquarters is in Orange County, but our manufacturing facility is in Moreno Valley, so it's about an hour and a half inland.
Right.
But the idea was you have a cultural hub. It's easy to get in and out of geographically, regardless of where you're going in the world. It's a access point for technology, right? And the design aesthetic. You say Irvine, Newport Beach, Orange County. I mean, like everyone associates that with luxury. So
Yeah.
it was a very strategic, very well thought out. And again, this is another one of the things that I said I can come and work at this place.
And so he bought these assets when?
He bought did the purchase in like 2012-ish. The company was founded in 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because when we had the Fisker Karma, the car of the year in 2011. I want to, or 12. No, it was for the 12. We had an 11 for 12.
Yep.
Yeah, I believe so. That makes sense.
So
it wasn't around much longer after that.
So it's appealing. Obviously, you took the job.
Yep.
You arrive at Karma, and you are shocked, amazed, horrified. The state of everything, all the above. Okay.
So when I first get there, first of all, what was amazing, the infrastructure. So the infrastructure of an auto manufacturer that's where most companies go south. Right. And inside of Karma, it was well built out. So they actually they had built basically benchmarked Maranello and rebuilt it in Southern California. Nice. And so I go into this 500,000 square foot assembly plant, and it's modern and it's flexible and it's clean, and it's like, oh my God!
Maranello is the Ferrari.
Ferrari.
But it's like they got trees growing in there. It's the most beautiful factory.
Do you have trees growing in there?
Guys get some trees.
In pizza making outfits?
Not that.
Okay.
No, not that. Not quite.
Do you have giant posters of Michelangelo David? Because they do.
But I think from what I could execute in the space, I saw a blank canvas, and again, the investment had already been made.
Right.
I mean, it's funny because we bought assets from other companies, but honestly, we don't use any of them. We repurchased and reconfigured everything. So that was the first thing. The second was when I get to the headquarters. I mean, I had complete engineering facilities, complete labs. I had dynos in the back. I had a design studio with 3 surface plates. I mean, it's like
I've seen the studio. It's incredible.
This is a legitimate auto company. Whereas I've worked with a lot of the other startups, and you see it's kind of a makeshift kind of version of what an auto company looks like. So those two things really inspiring. Okay. Now, what I didn't like was that the company didn't know who it was, right? I mean, and so there were some things that it did really well and things that not so great. But at the end of the day, you have to start with your identity, and you got to hold true to it. And while Karma's never had financial problems ever,
that's nice.
It struggled to find its identity, and so that was a big one. And then I think the next thing was just how we thought about quality in our space. Okay, so I went and read all the articles, and test drove every vehicle that we had in the building, and I said, there were some places where we could have done better. So when I got there, and it was a complicated business decision, but I shut everything off. Yeah. So I stopped the plant.
I remember that.
We had no communication. We would not allow sales. Any cars that we sold, I bought them back, and we basically just started over. And that's kind of a no-no in the auto industry, right? Like the JD Powers of the world you're messing with your residual values, and dealers start getting upset with you, and suppliers get upset with you. But I think it was the right thing for us to do.
Yeah, I agree with that decision, actually, because
thank you.
I drove a pre-U Karma, and it was just like, just wasn't ready for prime time.
Thank you.
So You joined in spring of
23.
2023.
Mhm.
Okay. And then you at that time, what is Karma selling? What the only there's one car,
Revero. Yeah, the Revero.
Revero.
Actually, when I got there, they were selling what they called the GS6.
GS6, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, which is
I think that's what I drove.
It was a vastly decontented version of the Revero.
Okay.
And like I said, I wasn't satisfied. So what we did was we went through the car and we simplified there was a lot of complexity. And so we tried to simplify the complexity so we could focus on what mattered to a customer. And we said, look, Revero is the nameplate that the company was launched on. So we're going to take this nameplate and we're going to send it out with a bang. So we're going to do a third generation. We're going to focus on any and everything that had an issue. We're going to make it great. And we're going to add some tweaks, right? We're going to make it a little bit faster. We're going to make it a little bit more refined. We're going to make the software move more quickly. We're going to, get rid of, we had wood grain materials that I wasn't sure whether or not they were wood, get that stuff out of here, go carbon fiber. And then this will be the last of the Revero ever. We'll build 100 to 150 of them. And then when they're done, they're done. Right. And that way we put a pin at the end of that story and we give it as much love and celebration as possible.
So at this point, we should clarify, right? When Heinrich Fisker started the company that became Karma, right? It was
called Fisker.
Fisker Automotive Inc.
And the model
was the Karma.
It was called the Karma, yeah.
Which was an EREV.
It was an EREV
extended range
electric vehicle with a GM powertrain.
Yeah.
GM powertrain, which was the
2.2 liter.
The Volt. It was essentially a Volt powertrain run backwards.
Yes.
So instead of powering the front wheels,
right.
Part of the rear wheels. Right. Small battery, similar range.
And it was the motor out of the Chevy Cobalt SS.
Right.
So, yes.
Yeah. A competitor to the SRT-4.
EREV, folks. Just hold on to that word EREV because it's come back. It's come back. It's now very popular.
Yeah, that's right.
But this car, the original Karma, was way back 2012, 2011, 2012.
Yeah. The Fisker Karma was 2011.
2011.
Yeah, we had it in November of 11 or summer of 11 for our 2012 award, if memory serves.
Right.
Yeah.
Fast forward to current days, the car is now the company. So Karma is now the company name, and
yes.
Revero is still
the
the model that bears. If you give me a percentage, how much of the Revero is similar to that original?
Great question.
Car.
So about 16%.
Wow.
So but the wheelbase is about the same.
The wheelbase is about the same. What a lot of people. So in our company, I don't allow anybody to use the F word. Okay. And I say that because everyone they get the two things confused. And I always tell people,
right,
for a business person to see a company that has good assets and buy those assets out of bankruptcy to start his company is just smart business, right? And so that doesn't mean that those two companies are the same thing.
Sure.
Now, what happened in 2019? They basically redesigned the car from stem to stern. So the powertrain now has got a BMW 3-cylinder, a 28 kilowatt hour battery. It's a rear drive, 533 horsepower. We've done some more, and it's a we advertised it a 4.5 0 to 60 car. It's a bit quicker than that. Okay. And then basically we went through the entire inside of the car and changed everything. Okay. I mean, now what people get stuck on is the proportions of the vehicle are similar. But why? Well, because the whole thesis of our company is we want to build a classic car. And if you look at the proportions of truly classic, truly collectible cars, right? I like Auburns, for example, right? Duesenberg, right? I like Delahaye. They have these long swooping proportions, long dash to axle, short wheel clip, big wheelbase. So what we said is, if we're going to make a car that is timeless, because we're not trying to make a car for the masses, just to be very clear.
Right, you're premium, and you're a premium price behind it.
Very premium price. So if I always tell people, if there's Aston, McLaren, Ferrari, those are the ultra luxury cars. They all come from effectively two places. If there was a American counterpart to that is what Karma is.
Right.
Okay. And so it's a different value proposition. So someone says, well, how does it compare to a Tesla? It doesn't. It's not even the same thing. I mean, like we spend more money, and there's no offense to that car, but we spend more money on our leather than they do on like the whole rear chassis, right? So, so it's a different value prop.
You should also just say the original Karma and the current Karma, gorgeous vehicles.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
They're super long proportions.
Yeah.
Yes, if you look at them side by side, I can see where there's some sharing.
You talk about Henrik Fisker.
Knows how to design a
hell of
car.
a designer.
Yes.
I
May not know how to run a company.
Sorry for saying the F word.
Yeah,
but
that's okay.
I mean, you look at the Z8. You look at the original Karma, and you look at the Ocean. I still see Oceans.
Yeah.
That's a gorgeous compact SUV.
I will never take anything away from his capabilities as a car designer.
Yeah.
Ever.
Incredible.
Right? And I've always been a fan of his work.
You know you've arrived when a rapper raps about your car and Childish Gambino rapped about the Karma.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. There you go.
There you go. So, okay. So 16%, what is that, something like deep in the chassis? Like the transmission tunnel or something?
So there are elements of the space frame that are going. Yeah.
Hinges. So what is the world of Karma beyond Revero?
I was going to get there.
Great question.
Yeah.
So this is the
co-host.
So this is the last year of Revero. So after this year, we will not build another one. I think the final number will be about 146, right? And every last one of the cars is serialized. We know where they, the color, where they get located. They're name plated for whomever the buyer is. Okay, and so that is the swan song of that nameplate. Next year, we launched the Gia Sera, which is the replacement for the Revero. Now, what we do with the Gia Sera is I always start with first principles. So the car, there were places where we had fiberglass, right, FRP in the car. We don't do that anymore. Everything is carbon fiber, right? And so two-tool carbon fiber in the hood, the roof, the rear deck lid, the front fenders, new fascia rockers. We've got all of the wheels. Now we don't use cast wheels in Karma at all anywhere. They're all forged, billet aluminum. Wow. Okay, or better. Okay. So
what's
then
better than forged? Like
carbon.
Carbon is okay.
We have a whole new compute architecture that we brought into the car. Completely new approach to interior design philosophy. So the car's now we're 566 horsepower. So the car's faster. It's more exotic in its delivery. We're more custom. So now if you show up and say, you got this great blue shirt on and I want my car to be that color, we'll master that color for you. And inside of 3 to 4 months, you'll have a car in that color.
Wow.
So we're really moving. We say Karma's not a car company. Karma's an experience company. So what we want to do is understand what drives the experience, car passion experience, right? You'll never see gigantic screens that wrap around our IP. There'll be people who do fully active suspensions. There'll be times where I just won't do it because it weighs too much, right? So we're going to go back to car. My question is, if I, as a person who loves cars and loves driving, but I lean into modern technology and into the future, what is that?
Right.
Where does that intersection happen? That is what we want to be the company that defines.
So Gia Sera, I looked it up, electrified 4-seater. Is it the same? It's a completely new chassis?
It's a updated chassis. So we have our approach to chassis is an aluminum space frame. So the philosophy is kind of borrowed from Lotus. Okay, so it's extrusions, simple bendings, but it gives us a lot of flexibility and a lot of rigidity. So we've modified the space frame for our new performance. We are going with a semi-active suspension on this car because we could get the performance and the weight balance. So it's not all new, but there's a lot new. So I'd say we've changed about 30 to 40% of this car versus the prior generation.
Okay, and the powertrain is
when we launch, it'll have a carryover powertrain, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay.
And then you got a bunch of cars on your website.
Yes.
Kaveya.
Kaveya is our supercar. That's what we used to relaunch the company. So that's a 4-motor all-wheel drive supercar.
All electric.
That one's the only one in our portfolio that's all electric. Everything else is range extended.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then you got, where are you getting these names? You got Kaveya, you got Isvara, you got Amaris.
Yeah, that's a great question. Sounds
like Wakanda superheroes.
Yeah, exactly. So the reality is, if we're America's ultra luxury car company, right, we have to reflect American culture. What is American culture? It's a hybrid of everything.
Right.
So what we do when we name a car is we do like you would if you were naming your child. And so we go from culture to culture. So when we said Gia Sera, the roots are all Latin, Hispanic. So Gia is earth, Sera is princess. When we went to Kaveya, Kaveya is from Hindi. We have a lot of Indian employees in our company.
Interesting.
And so when we went to Isvara, Isvara is Nordic, basically. So it's European. And so each time we go through, all right, what culture are we going to look at? What is the persona of the car? What does it represent to us? And then like Kaveya is poetry in motion. That's effectively what it translates to, or poetic, right? And we thought that the design of the car and the way that we wanted it to drive around a track was needed to be poetic, right? Very balanced, very, very natural, and very beautiful, right? When we looked at Amaris, the name Amara or Amari, it's of Hebrew or origination, and so that car, it means timeless or immortal. So we wanted to have a car that sat at the anchor of our brand, that you'll look at it 50 years from now and you say, that's still the most beautiful thing on the road.
So what Marcus isn't telling you, this is also a really clever way to secure trademarks for anytime a car company tries to name something, they gotta all these lawyers gotta look stuff up. And the name exists, and then it's like a huge problem.
But you know what though? I no, that's from that MBA class that was like, we gotta get rid of legend. That's what's holding Acura back, is that we have a legend.
No, I like the names.
You know,
These are great.
We need RLX.
Yes.
That's our solution. You know what I mean? Like I have an Ineos Grenadier Quartermaster. There was no problem trademarking any of those. The whole thing was easy. There was never a Grenadier. There was never a Quartermaster.
Yeah, because no one's naming their.
I know, but I'm saying
this
was this excuse to drop names.
No, we wanted names that sounded romantic, and we wanted names that had a meaning, and we wanted names that were as diverse as the culture of the country. So that's
very, very
especially Southern California.
Yes.
Right.
You know.
Okay.
I mean, 'cause, you know, odds are, I think LA, Los Angeles County has the most languages spoken
yes
of anywhere in the world. And like London's 2 or something like that. You know?
Exactly.
So
they all look, if you go to the site, you go to the website,
KarmaAutomotive.com.
KarmaAutomotive.com, they look great. And these are all of these, all the ones I named, Kaveya, Invictus, Sera, Isvara, Amaris, are they all Michelle's designs?
No. So Michelle was leading our studio on Michelle Christensen.
Yes.
She was the lead designer for the Acura NSX. She was leading our studio when we did Invictus and when we did Kaveya. Okay. So then I moved Michelle to run our brand and our experience. So and then Nick David, who was her number 2, then took over design.
Okay.
So the now the Amaris and Isvara, those are under Nick now.
Got it.
But Michelle, she has a really unique talent of tying car design into culture and feeling. And I said, Michelle, if we're going to create Karma as an experience company, we need someone who makes the experience of what we're doing in design, you know, it's got to expand past just the walls of the metal of the car. Okay. And so that's what she does.
Okay.
And I remember when we spoke at the Quail, the on the hood there's like the ellipse or the planetary comet line,
mm-hmm.
and that was Michelle's design language?
It was both of them. I mean, I think it was a concept that they came up with together, because Michelle's theme was that, you know, we wanted to be otherworldly. Right. So what is Karma going to represent for? We're going to represent supernatural innovation. That's why you said superheroes. So we literally had superheroes up on the wall. And so they said, well, the car should represent this celestial notion of speed and movement. So the idea is, if you look at the car in plan view, you will always see that comet line. But when you get inside the car, you'll also see it. And it makes the car feel very, very airy and open.
Right.
Okay. So I'll just go back to this last batch of Reveros. You said 146.
Yes.
Roughly how much, what's the average transaction price on those? What were they selling at?
Oh, so the lowest is 127, the highest is 168.
Okay.
One of the parking lots 168.
Yes. Yeah.
Fully loaded.
It's pretty
Beautiful.
well loaded. Yeah. And so usually they're going out the door between 147 and 150-ish.
Okay.
Right. You know, and then, you know, it all depends on, you know, the customer and what they want, what options they want, and then some of those options they can buy after the fact.
They're all essentially custom order.
No, they're not all custom orders. So we did a blend this year because I needed to rebuild the plant's I would say manufacturing muscles. So we started with the base production, and we built the cars in kind of a base configuration so we could establish a cadence. And then as we got orders in from the dealers, then we configured them to match the dealers' orders.
And then, so Sera is going to be the next generation. Will that be same price point?
It's a little bit higher.
A little bit
so
higher.
because that car is going to get a significant amount of exotic materials. So I mean, the amount of carbon that we're introducing into that car, more high strength aluminum, the add of the active suspension. So GSR is going to have a start point about 165.
Okay. So they all look like awesome concept cars on the site, but here's my hard question.
Yeah.
Where's the volume seller? Is that going to be the Isvara, the Grand Touring? Like this country loves
Yes.
SUVs. Every EV.
I was gonna say, where's the SUV?
Every startup.
Yep.
They, Tesla famously did the Model S, and that's great, but it wasn't really until, honestly, Model X and then the cheaper versions, the Y,
Yeah.
goes crazy. So where's Karma's?
So
Is it volume seller, or you don't care because you're?
Yeah, it's a different business model, right? So if you think about the stalwart brands in the ultra luxury space, they do anywhere between, on the low end, one of the British guys is about 3,000 units a year. On the high end, the king of the Italians is like 12,000 units a year. So I'm not shopping for 50, 60, 100,000 unit volumes, but we see Amaris. The Amaris and Isvara are probably going to be the highest volume runners in our portfolio, because
And we're saying names without showing pictures. So
yeah.
What is the Amaris?
The Amaris is a two-door GT.
Okay.
And so it is the first time that we've done that anyone has done a range extended electric two-door GT. It hasn't been done.
Right.
And so as a hybrid car, because I don't like to say electric vehicle because people hear that like, it's no,
Right.
no,
Yeah.
no. It's so I explain it this way as an engineer. If you're an engineer, you want to get the power to the ground as fast as possible and as efficiently as possible. If I drive the rear wheels by electric drive, that means I have a 90+% efficiency. Okay. Now I've got a generator on board that can refill my battery when I need it, so I don't ever have to worry about range anxiety. So if I want to drive as EV, I drive as EV. If I want to drive across the country, I put it in the gas tank.
Yeah.
If I don't want to ever touch public charging, I don't have to.
Right.
But now I've got this 185 mile an hour car, 0 to 60 in 3 and some change, and that looks like nothing else on the road, and it's can still do 70 plus miles to the gallon. How does that happen?
Right.
So it's like I don't want to give up anything. I want everything.
Are you amused that EREV is kind of back in the industry?
Yes.
Like it's. I noted this about. Last year, really? I saw
18 months ago when Ram announced the truck.
Ram announced it, and then Scout said, "Hey, not just EVs, we're going to put EREV." And then Hyundai literally, I think, slapped a slide in their presentation at the LA Auto Show that mentioned range. And then I just heard, this is the other question I was going to ask you: is it EREV or REV? Because the Stellantis guys told me
REV.
we're REV. It's range extended electric vehicle.
Yeah. So I think everyone's just trying to find a way to brand it.
Okay.
The reality is it's a hybrid, right?
Yeah.
And it's a version of hybrid that most people are not used to. So everyone's trying to figure out how to explain it. What I say is you choose. From my standpoint, it's about freedom, right? So if I talk about American culture, there are people who love automobiles who want to have a lesser impact on the world. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Okay, but I still want performance. I still want visceral connection. I still want to hit the throttle and I want to hear rumbles. Okay, guess what? I can give you that, and I can let you choose how you do it from the pull of a switch. So to me, that's the most important. And then now for my techno nerds and the guys who really love automotive technology, now let me explain to you. It's an extended range electric driven vehicle. So and what that means is that it's always the electric motors are always driving the wheels.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yep.
So Chevy Volt is how I always go back to.
Yeah.
Although the Chevy Volt, the electric motor weirdly could hook up to the planetary gear.
That's right.
Probably shouldn't have done that, but
Yeah.
it did
BMW,
that,
the original i3 with
i3, i8.
i3 and i8.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But they only give you about 30 miles of EV range.
Yeah, and
Whereas
they're over a decade old.
That's right.
That's how time's flying. But,
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the i8 when I was on the launch.
yeah,
you know?
like our Revero right now, I can drive up to 80 miles in EV, right?
Wow.
And
Yeah,
if I'm driving it and doing all the range things, I can. or I can not, right? So it's really up to you, and that's the part that I like about it the most.
Do you see EREVs, which is a fine word? Do you see this really growing, or is it like
I do.
You do.
I do.
Okay.
So look, at the end of the day, whether it's because of cost or environment or both, I think the need for us to have a different mode of transportation is inevitable, right? And
You
so
made Ed's morning.
and
Yeah.
I think that the push that we had where we said everything has to be fully electric. Honestly, I agreed with Onkyo Toyota. I thought that was a mistake. But when you look at EREV, take the largest auto market in the world, China. When everyone says Chinese EVs are dominating in that market, they're not EVs. EREVs are the dominant thing coming out of BYD because you don't have to choose.
Right.
So our big thing is if we embrace that technology, I can still have car passion. I can still have the freedom to go where I want when I want. I don't necessarily have to incur this worry about battery and battery technology and battery life and so on and so forth. To me it's a non-compromise model, and so for that reason I feel very strongly it's going to grow.
Okay.
Okay. We're almost out of time. Is there? I don't feel like we haven't talked enough about the Karma being an experience company. Can
Yes.
you sell us what is the most singular experience?
Yeah. Why am I not buying an Aston Martin? Why am I
Yeah,
buying,
you
why am I buying a Karma?
mentioned you mentioned some Italians, you mentioned some Brits.
Yeah.
Like, what is the experience? What are they really getting when they evaluate or shop a Karma, Sera or Amaris, or like what is it? What do you hope that comes across?
Yeah, so let's start from the driving experience, okay? So one, if you've driven an electric vehicle, the spirit of instantaneous torque, it is something that once you feel it, you're addicted to it.
Yeah. There's no going back.
There's no going back.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when I do that, right now the notion is I do it once and then my battery goes like this, and then my drive will be prematurely over. So first is I want to have a non-compromise. I want that, but I also want to have the connection to when I choose to dip into it and I hear the throttle give me feedback and I feel the road and I hear the visceral connection from the exhaust. I want that. I do. I mean, I did SRTs and hot rod Mustangs, right? Like, this is what I want. So there's no one else who's telling you that you can have both, right? So if I go and buy one of the other exotics and they're brilliant, it's a either or.
Right.
Okay. And frankly, most of them are, there's some who are just making their greatest engine that they know how to make, and it's like an F1 car with a body around it, right? We know who those guys are. But then when I get in some of the comfort accoutrement, right? I don't like big, like I said, I don't like big wraparound screens, but there's some tech in modern days that actually works for me, right? It makes my life easier and it makes driving those exotic cars comfortable. I don't have a choice today where I can have both. Okay. And so our model is you can. Okay. Then the next part is the fact that because we focus on you and the experience, we can keep changing that. So Karma is at the core, we're a technology and software company. Okay. And because our cars are elevated in the market, I can explore that technology more readily, and I don't have to worry about it turning into losses that I have to report every quarter. Okay. So we can still be a profitable business. So that means now if as a driver, you want to have your watch synced with your heart monitor synced to your driving dynamics in the car, and so that you can see, or maybe you want to see how your body responds when you're going around a hot lap at Laguna Seca. Guess what? I can enable that for you. Okay. And that's a great connection that I can give you that brings the modern together with the traditional.
So you have that ability now. You can do that. Okay. Is that is there a mobile? Does Karma have a cool mobile app?
We do have a mobile app.
Okay.
We do have a mobile app.
Phone as key, the whole thing.
It's constantly evolving, but it can do a lot today. It'll be doing a lot more tomorrow. Okay. I'll leave it that way.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I don't want this to be the last question, so you got to think of a last question. But I really have to ask, in the time, I think, right, 2023 that you joined, and it's the F word, sorry, the Fisker's new company went under. Do you have any Any thoughts on that? Did you watch this thing unfold like
Yes.
the Titanic sink you're watching from the beach or something? Or like what anything you want to say?
I have so many things to say. I think that I will just talk about the part that applies to us. I mean, the biggest thing is the confusion of people thinking that was us by association.
Got it.
Right. And again, I've had to say more times than I can count, I don't want to, again, I don't like to say negative things. There's one party that's had multiple auto companies. There's another party that's had one auto company, and that one auto company has been here, and there have been billions of dollars invested into that auto company and it's still here. So there are very few in our space right now that have the longevity that Karma has had. The problem is that Karma we didn't make ourselves publicly known. The world didn't know our story. And so that's my job to fix it. But yeah, I watched it unfold, and I told you so might have rolled through my head once or twice. I wish him the best, ran through my head. I'm sorry for what's going to happen to all these people, ran through my head. And then, by the way, we just tanked the market for residual values for EVs, which hurt everybody.
Sure.
Okay. So, so there was a lot of things that, where that had an impact. But for me, mine is just to make sure that people know we are something very, very different than what exists out there. And I want people to explore it and have fun with it.
So the final question is then, aside from obviously coming on the inevitable, how you gonna get the word out about Karma? Is there a big push? Is there So what's that going to look like?
Well, I'm here.
From obviously this.
I'm with you.
Yes,
what are you
this
talking
already
about?
Sold 50 cars.
Now
50
that now that we're here, our success is inevitable. What are you talking about?
Oh no!
No. So we are making sure that Karma's in all the places where people expect to see cars of our stature and our price point. But then there will be some other things that we do so that people can understand kind of. People are attracted to beautiful vehicles. They're attracted to performant vehicles. So we are going to help people to see exactly what a Karma can do. So the funny thing is you say, these beautiful show cars, every last one of those cars that we've built, everyone that's on the website, whether it was the first prototype, second, third, or fourth, I've taken and driven back and forth to my home to San Diego. So one of the things that I'm not a believer in concept cars and show cars, right? So mine was, the reason why you see so much on our website was I wanted to exercise the capabilities of the company. And I wanted to exercise those capabilities as aggressively as possible. So they're real. And then what we do every month is we iterate the reality. We make them stronger, faster, more performant. So I think that the world paying attention to Karma is going to be very excited, and they're going to see some things that they feel good getting behind. We say the company exists on 3 axes. Experiences, and the vehicle is the fulcrum. Technology, software is where we think that we can really add some unique values to the driving experience, and the community. So we use Karma to inspire the next generation of young drivers. You guys did something with the guys from Fat Kart Racing. Yeah. So we're looking at them and saying, how can we connect that group of people into the next generation of what race cars will be?
Stick a bunch of Karmas in Montana in February.
Yeah, there you go.
That's how you do it.
Oh, awesome. Well, we wish you the best of luck with Karma.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for coming on, Marques McCammon.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's been a blast.